Hey, what's up guys? This is Paul from the sysadmin channel, and in this video I'm going to show you step by step how to install SCCM in your environment, and we're starting right now. So I put together a basic overview of what we're going to be covering today. Go ahead and pause the video now, and if you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments section. If not, let's get on with the show. So I've already downloaded the setup files to my desktop. We're going to open that up, run SMS setup, bin x64, and then from here we're going to look for the extend admin schema. We're going to want to run that as an administrator. That's fine. So now we're going to go into the root of the C drive, and now you should see the extend ADSI log, and if you scroll down a little you can see that the Active Directory schema was successfully extended. So go ahead and close out of that. And by the way, you will need schema admin rights to be able to extend the AD schema. Alright, so now we're going to go back into our pack DC02 machine, and then we're going to open up the ADSI edit. And then from here we're going to expand our containers. So within the system container we're going to want to add a new object. So we'll right click that, select add new object, and then we want to add a new container. Once we have the container selected, we'll click next. So for the value, we're going to want to name this system management, and just note that it is case sensitive. So you want to spell it exactly like that. We'll click next to this, finish on that. Okay. And so we're going to right click our system management and select properties. And so from here, we're going to select the security, go to add. And then we want to select our computer account. So we're going to type in pack-SCCM01. We'll click the check name just to resolve the name. Click OK to that. Okay. We want to give this account full control. Select apply. And then we're going to go into the advanced settings. And now we want to select our computer object and select edit. And so from here we want to select this object and all descending objects. We want to select OK to this, and then apply and OK. OK to that. Alright, and now we can close out of our ADSI edit. So next we're going to want to go into the group policy management. And then from here we're going to create a new GPO. And we'll call this GPO SCCM configuration GPO. We'll select OK to that. Alright, so now we want to edit our GPO, and we're going to go into policies. Well, let me expand that first. We'll go to policies, Windows settings, security settings, and then Windows firewall with advanced security. We want to select the inbound roles. Create a new role, and then here we want to select our predefined role, and then we want to add file and printer sharing. Select next to this, allow this connection, of course. So once we created that one, we want to allow a new role. We're going to select predefined once again, and this time we're going to select Windows Management Instrumentation, WMI. Select next on that. We want to allow this connection. Alright, so now we can close out of that. We want to apply this GPO that we just created to our home OU. So we'll select SCCM configuration GPO, and we set it to the home OU. Alright, so now we're out of the group policy management. And we'll just go ahead and log off the DC because we're not going to need anything from there anymore. Alright, so now back in our SQL server, we want to go into the computer management. And then basically what we're going to want to do is we want to add the SCCM service account as well as the SCCM computer account. So here in the local administrators, we're going to select SCCM SVC. Click OK to that, and then we want to add another account. We'll go to object types, select computers, and then enter in our pack-SCCM01 machine. Okay. Make sure that's good. We'll go ahead and close that. And then we want to open up PowerShell. So this is basically, we want to open up PowerShell so we can create new inbound rules for our firewall and install our features. So within SQL, all we're going to need to install is the .NET framework. So by default, Windows 2012 does not allow .NET 3.5 to be installed by default. You have to have the installation media. So I've added that here. And then now after we've installed the .NET Framework 3.5, we want to add our inbound firewall rules on the SQL server. This is basically going to allow the SCCM server to connect to the SQL ports 1433 and 4022. So once we added that PowerShell little script right there, we want to check our Windows firewall and security just to make sure that it did add OK. And of course, we want to set our scope to domain and private. Make sure those ports are fine and click OK to this. Sounds good. So next, we're going to install SQL Server 2012 Standard. So we're going to open up our installation directory and click on setup.exe. Once that opens, we're going to go to the left-hand panel, select installation, and then we're going to install a new SQL standalone version. All right, the setup support rules, we'll click OK to that. Make sure everything passed. That looks good. We want to accept the license terms. That's fine. All right, so I'm getting this error because I don't have an internet connection. But if you did, you can install the updates then and there. That's fine. So for the setup rules, everything looks good so far. We'll go ahead and select next to that. For our feature selections, we're going to want to install the database engine services, the reporting services native, and then we're going to scroll down a little and we're going to install the management tools basic and complete. That looks good. We'll go ahead and click on next to that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and name my instance for my SCCM server. I'm going to call it SCCM. That'll help you identify what it is. We'll click on next to this once again. All right, so for our SQL Server agent, we've already added the SCCM SVC account. So we want to use this account to be able to run that service. So we're going to browse to the SCCM SVC, check name, click OK to that. We'll go ahead and copy this because we're going to want to use it for the database engine services and the reporting services. Okay. And we just want to make sure that everything is set up to start automatically. That way when you restart, there's no stoppage in services. We'll click on the collation tab and we want to make sure that it is set to the default SQL Latin General CP1. That's fine. We want to add our current user so we can connect to the database. And then we want to also add our SCCM SVC account. Okay, we'll click next to that. We want to install and configure. That's fine. We'll select next once again. Check, make sure everything's good. Once again, and for the overview, we'll just make sure that everything's good. If you wanted to install these same settings on another machine, we can copy that configuration file and then use that configuration file to set it up. For now, we'll just click install. Okay, and now it's installing, and with the magic of video editing, we can finish this within seconds. So everything looks good so far. All of my installations did succeed successfully. Is that right? Anyway, we'll close this. We'll go ahead and close this again. And we'll close out of our windows there. And so next we're going to want to go into our SQL Server Management Studio. Since we added our account as a admin, that's fine. We should be able to log in with no problem. So here we're going to want to go into our properties and make sure that our memory allocation is limited. So go into the memory tab right there, and then select the minimum to 4096 for 4 gigs. And we want to select the maximum to 8 gigs, 8192 megabytes. That looks good. Next, we want to go into the security tab or the security folder within our SCCM SVC account. We'll click on properties, and we just want to make sure that the roles has the sysadmin roles. Without that, it's not going to work. Okay. We'll go ahead and close out of SQL Server Management Studio. And next we want to open up the SQL Server Configuration Manager. We'll accept the user account control on there. So within the SQL services, we just want to make sure that everything is running as the SCCM SVC account or the account that you selected. That looks good right there. We want to click on the aliases, the protocols for SCCM. We want to enable the name pipes. And then we want to right click on the TCP/IP and click properties. So here we want to go into the IP addresses tab. We want to set the dynamic ports to blank and the TCP port to 1433. Okay. If you don't set this, you're going to get errors when you do install. It's going to tell you that there was a firewall dynamic port or something like that. I ran into this a long time ago, and I went through hoops and bounds to figure it out, and this was actually the fix. So we want to select that last one to 1433. We'll select apply to there. Okay. We'll go ahead and close out of the SQL Server Management Studio. And next, we want to restart our services. So we'll go into our services.msc. We'll expand that. Okay. And so here we just want to scroll down to the SQL services and make sure that we restart those services. It's going to restart the SQL Server and the SQL Server agent. Once that's done, that looks good. Make sure that runs fine. And we also want to restart the reporting services. Give that a second. Okay. All right, so now in our SCCM server, we're going to want to add our computer as an admin. So we'll go back into the computer management. We'll go into local users and groups, go into administrators, add an administrator. And here we want to add the SCCM SVC account. Okay. We'll go into object types and add the computer account as well. And then we want to type in pack-SCCM01. Check that, make sure that resolves perfectly fine, and it does. We'll apply that. We'll click OK to that. All right, that looks good. So we're going to open up PowerShell, and we want to add our Windows features on here as well. So I'll go back into my notepad and install the .NET framework, just like we did before with the SQL Server. So once again, you have to have this mounted, or else it won't install. So I've already added the .NET framework just fine. So now we're going to install all the Windows features for SCCM. It's kind of a long list, but I'll go ahead and post this in the description just so you guys can copy it as well. All right, and now we're going to add our firewall rule again. Okay. So next we want to go into our Internet Information Services, IIS. We'll go ahead and maximize that for a larger viewing space. All right, we'll click or no to that. We want to expand sites, go to default website. We want to click on the WebDAV authoring rules. We want to enable WebDAV and then add an authoring rule. And we just want to make sure that all users, all users have read rights. Okay, once we're done with that, we'll go into the WebDAV settings and we'll set the allow anonymous property queries to true allow custom properties to false, and allow property queries within infinite depth to true. Once we're done that, we can apply and save that. That looks good. Okay, and now once that is done, we want to install our AIK, and the AIK is the Windows Assessment Deployment Kit. From here you will need the deployment services, the USMT, I believe, and the WinPE. So we'll go ahead and check everything that we're not going to be using, and we'll be left with deployment tools, WinPE, and USMT. That looks good, and we'll go ahead and install that. All right, that looks good. We'll go ahead and close that. Now we're ready to install SCCM. So from here, we'll go ahead and click on the splash.hta, and we will load up Configuration Manager. All right, once it prompts up, we'll hit the install button. We'll select yes to the user account control. No problem with that. Next up, we're presented with the before you begin screen. This is just to make sure that you have a full version SQL Server, which we do. So go ahead and read that over, and we'll select next to this. Since we installed SCCM and SQL on different machines, we're going to leave this top radio button selected to install a primary site. We will also leave the use typical installation settings unchecked because we want to specify our SQL settings. In the next screen, we'll click next to this. If you have a product key, now is the time to put it in. Since we don't in our environment, we'll go ahead and continue with the eval version. We'll select next. All right, in order to continue, we'll go ahead and accept the license terms. We'll click next to that. And we'll go ahead and continue to accept the terms on this page right now, and we'll select once again. Next up, we're presented with the option to download the required files. I'm going to go ahead and choose the use previously downloaded files and browse to my location. Since I've installed this several times, I already have the updates installed on my computer. So I'll go ahead and browse to that. English is the only language I'm interested in right now, and that's already installed. So we'll go ahead and select next to that. Once again, I'm only going to be needing English, and we can continue on with this portion. Next up, we're presented with the site and installation settings. This is very important because you only get to choose your site code once. So I'll go ahead and set mine to pack. I'll set my site name to site-1, and I'll leave the installation folder as default. We'll also leave the install the configuration manager checked, and then we'll select next to this. Since this is the first and only site in our environment, we're going to want to install the primary site as a standalone site. Have that selected, and then we can go ahead and click next. And this pop-up is just letting us know that we can expand our site by installing a central administration site later if we want to. We're not going to need that right now, so we'll go ahead and click yes to continue. Next, we're prompted to enter in our database information for the SQL server name. I'm going to go ahead and put in pack-SQL01. My instance and database name, I had set those to SCCM. And for my service broker point, I'm going to leave that at the default at 4022. Once that information is entered, we'll go ahead and click next to continue. The default settings look good here, so we'll go ahead and click next to that. And for my SMS service provider settings, I'm going to go ahead and leave the default at pack-SCCM01. I don't have a PKI set up in my infrastructure, so I'll select the second radio button and click next. Next up, we're presented with our site system roles. By default, SCCM's primary site server is going to be the management point and distribution point. So that's already set as the default. So we'll go ahead and click next to this. 10 out of 10 times we choose no to join the improvement program. Today is no exception. So we'll select I do not want to join at this time and click next. Next up, we're presented with our settings summary. If everything looks good here, which it does, we'll go ahead and click next to that. And finally, it's going to do one last prerequisite check before pulling the trigger. Since I only have 8 gigs on my SQL server and I never installed a WSUS role on any of my site servers, I am getting warnings, but we can safely ignore those and click begin to install SCCM. I'll go ahead and fast forward this part and come back when we're ready. So total time, it took me about 23 minutes. I've averaged from 20 minutes to about an hour in production. So it all depends on how many computers you have in your environment and how fast your server is. All right, so once we're done there, we'll go ahead and close out of that and exit out of our configuration manager install screen. So now we'll open up the Configuration Manager console and hopefully it opens up. No error so far, so that's a good thing. And it's good. Everything actually opened up without problems. So there you have it. In this video, we went over step by step on how to install SQL and SCCM on dedicated machines for your environment. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see any more SCCM related videos, or if you have any ideas for any SCCM related videos, go ahead and let me know in the comments section. Until next time, this is Paul with the sysadmin channel, signing out.